Okay, I'm back. Let's I'm gonna re just do a shorter version of the last one I did. I apologize because the what happened is actually seemed like the audio was not going through, and I thought it was, and so I was doing the stream for a whole hour before I even noticed. So yeah, so we'll go back into doing this again, and then it's just doing a short synopsis of the actual score. But yeah, now that I can actually hear it, and now I know the audio is going through. We're going to go through it one time, and then I'll do a quick short synopsis as we're going through it. So here we go. Okay, now that I know that it's working, but let me double check just to make sure because technology and yeah, so we want to make sure all this is going good. Let me see here. Okay, okay, yeah, so it is working. And of course my battery is about to die. So let me go get a battery real quick and we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. Let me just make sure audio is working as it should be. We're live still. Just make sure audio is working as it should be. Okay. Uh, right. Okay, so now that our audio is back, come right. Okay, so now that our audio is back, come. Okay, so you can hear me. That's good. Now we're gonna go back to the beginning. We'll talk about decisions made here. So yeah, as I'll make it more concise since the first time we did this, it didn't go Didn't go too well with the audio, so that's why I'm just moving back and forth and confirming that our audio is working. So let's start with the pad, or it starts with the pad. So yeah, something. I mean, this is very easy pad. I mean, just literally one note on the key, just making sure it's the right in the right key. Yeah. So we talked about this. The ostinato. Okay, so yeah, going back to what's going on here. So our ostinato here, whole purpose is to set the mood. This is what this piece is about. One of the things I reiterated in the first live stream that I did is I love the this guy's bowing here. This guy, I mean, nothing that there's anything wrong with the way she did it, but if you were able to hear this guy, because just to reiterate, the production you're hearing is not the same as what he's actually playing, but you can tell just by how he's bowing that he's creating shape in what he's doing. So check this out. Yeah, so let's see how he's slowly inching up the bow. She, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with what she's doing, but what he's doing, for those of you that know this about violin, how you bow things matters because depending on where the bow is and where you're playing will determine how the sound comes out and whether or not you're getting a strong sound or you're getting a weak sound. So what they're doing is and I mean obviously I'm not a violinist, so I'm not gonna pretend that I know everything about violin, but I mean there's absolutely nothing wrong here. This is actually quite right. But what he's doing is actually creating shape because as he's going up the bow, there's more weight being put into the sound, and as he's going away from the bow, you can hear it change. So watch again. So yeah, he started. I'm impressed by this because I've never really seen that technique, and so it's just interesting. So clearly they're playing the harmony here. Basses come in. So I want to say this because this section is all really about texture. And again, the amazing orchestrator Joe Jackson has gone on to compose things for the Seattle Symphony and I believe the Richmond Symphony as well in Virginia. And the texture here is just so interesting because not only you're not just hearing chords, you're hearing tremolo, you're hearing spiccato, you're hearing these basses when they're coming with a syncopated rhythm. Syncopation meaning being offsetted off the beat as opposed to the normal rhythmic patterns. And yeah, so I mean, it's creating this. There's so many things that you're listening to, and the ostinato allows you to have a sense of familiarity with what the initial rhythm is, which is what that the this guy's playing. So when the basses come in, you're hearing that dun 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 dun. Now, again, to reiterate, this is not exactly what you're hearing and what they're playing because the production after that, the editing process, we've added synthesizer to this up because we're in not for the typical orchestra, or the typical film orchestra can be like 16 basses, 20 horns, 18 trombones. That is not a concert setting. This is a concert orchestra, which is more, I would say, more balanced. but depends on what you want as a composer. So in this case, we had to umph it up because it wasn't coming through as well. But yeah, so all this is about texture. I'm actually really happy with this beginning. The mix, for the most part, is pretty clean. Maybe we could take off a little bit off the lower end with a low pass. I'm sorry, a high pass. But yeah, other than that, I think it's pretty good. So I talked about this in the last part, how I feel about that 6/4 section. Yeah, I mean, it it works as a transition, but I think I could have did better with it, the transition, because I mean, we have this homorhythmic stop that really, then we go into the melody, of course. So I mean, that that time signature modulation isn't kind. I mean, because we're coming from 3/4 to 6/4, which makes sense, but then we're going straight into 4/4. Maybe I could have put in a 2/4 before we go back to the 4/4 or something else. But yeah, I'm not too. I mean, honestly, I wasn't even sold on it when I read it, but I had to move on. So we that's what we did. So because this next part brings in the horn solo. So we'll move on to the horn solo here, which is the intriguing part. Yeah, so here, we talked about this again in the last stream that you couldn't hear, that the two different types of melodies. You have the period melody, and then you have the sentence melody. The period melody being like something similar to How to Train Your Dragon. So how that melody works is you have an A section, then you have a B section, da 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 da, which is the A section again, da 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 da, which is a B prime, which again takes you back to what you've heard, but it essentially closes out. Here, what I particularly did here was a sentence structure. So you're hearing more of like a question answer as opposed to now that doesn't mean you can't do that with a period structure. Actually, I hear composers do it quite frequently. But I mean, honestly, these days we're kind of getting away from melody. Well, not kind of. We are getting away from melodies for attention purposes. But yeah. So here you're hearing the da 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 da, which doesn't really answer the question because of how it's the harmony, but the structure is there. So you can let me go back. I'm actually was really happy with this section because the strings, the texture, it draws your ear as much as the horn solo draws your ear. So it's really interesting because you're being drawn in all these places, but really the horn is what you're listening to. So I'll play that again. And I want to explain one more thing while this shot, because this shot is really important. Sorry, where are they at? The trombones. Because what they're doing, even though in this particular section is very simple, very straightforward, it's insanely important because they are providing a level of clarity in terms of the harmony as much as the strings are. But let me go back to it. So yeah, trombone section, tuba. these guys are all playing on a harmony that is allowing the melody to move. So typically, when composers are composing, they're composing a sketch. So you have the staff, you have the what's it called, the treble clef, the bass clef, and then you take that, you create the idea, and you expand it into the orchestra, right? So one thing that has to be clear, or in most cases, it should be clear, if you are using harmonic music. And a lot of, a lot of now we're getting away from the harmonic thing, and now it's more a lot of its textures or what is effective in film music. But in harmonic music, it is important to know where the harmony is going because the harmony is telling the story. So whenever there's a move in the music, it's probably happening, or at least in my music, most of the time it's happening with these guys. And this is actually the instrument I used to play, but these guys and or strings or and the tuba, which is of course is the in most cases is going to be the uh indication factor of what harmony you're playing. And so this shot is amazing because I love like you can even tell by how they're playing, like how the trombone section is playing by their positions. They're playing different notes that are in that same harmonic scale. So here, right here. I also might add that horn player is not because again we had to adjust things because when big technical error on my part and I'm not proud of it, but I learned from it. Sending the sample rate in 44 kind of messed up the tuning when we got our session back, and so we had to adjust. So we ended up tuning everything to um, the whatever rate it was. I think it was like few cents off of D minor. It was yeah, it was problematic, but we got it figured out and got it to sound remotely close to what we wanted. So sorry. So yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the transition. So we blowing through the 6/4 section. I one, I'm very happy with this reiteration of the main theme because it was powerful, very valiant. Introduced it as if you were seeing coming around the corner of a big world. And again, this kind of goes with the whole idea of film music in general. Is like when you're creating something this big, you kind of have to visualize it. You kind of have to visualize what would this sound like, or what am I trying to do if I was looking at a screen score to. So I imagined like, yeah, we're coming around like either the moon or coming around this giant hill, and there's a giant jib shot that's panning and panning into the giant reveal of some big tribe or civilization or something like that. And yeah, so this is a very, very, very big moment. And so yeah, so it's big. Now the caveat to that is when mixing this thing, or not mixing, mastering this thing, it's very loud, to which some of you might actually have to turn down your microphone, which is on me because I should have mastered that better. But other than that, in terms of compositionally, I was really happy with this section here. Very loud. We have choir. Choir, of course, is not in the video, but you can. We did on the production, and then also percussion too, as you'll hear as we get further through. gotta say this, and I know we've already listened through it, and I don't mean to keep stopping, but this horn section, particularly when we were doing this session, because we only had 30 minutes, right? So we were like, had to roll what we had. They did a insane piece before us that really burnt their lips. And keep it in mind, our orchestrator, he's a horn player, and he knows this section very, very well. So we were having trouble getting our solo, and then we were also having some trouble. Well, no, we didn't have any trouble during this counter melody part, but particularly with the solo, we had to give it to somebody else in the section because of what they played before. But this counter melody, they did insanely well, and even with the mixing in of sound libraries, it just made it sound that much bigger. And then of course the reverb. I believe the reverb I use is the one I use on everything. It's like cinematic. I forgot what it called, but you have like so many reverbs, or you have so many spaces. You have like cathedrals, you have like small drum rooms. You have so much flexibility with your reverb, and then this space in itself is dry. When I got this mixed back, it was dry, and I was was able to maneuver it. So I was really happy with this compositionally as well. Like they're just playing the counter melody. So the melody that they were playing, or the solo guy was playing here, shifted to the orchestra, right? So they're playing all these violinists are playing the beautiful melody, and then of course we have some rhythmic stuff going on to keep the motion going. They're playing the harmony. We have our basses on some eighth notes, which could have been umphed by some synth. We should have did more with that, and more on the high end, honestly. But yeah, and then chords, of course, in the horns, and then the trumpet. Actually, I take it back. The trumpets, they're playing the melody, and then our horns, yeah, and our we're getting some garnish or embellishment by our woodwind section here. So some dovetailing with the swoops up, and then our horn section, beautiful horn section, is playing the counter melody. So that's what you're hearing here. That's why it sounds familiar because you're already used to the melody, but now we have a counter melody on top of all these textures and everything on top of that are making it that much more interesting. So So yeah, let's talk about that. So again, as was mentioned in our previous stream, that you couldn't hear, what's happening with this piece is that we are creating essentially a suite style of music. So if I was to propose this piece to a director, producer, or whatever, um, it's taking 5 minutes and condensing a whole lot of plot and story through the music in 5 minutes. So that leads to these modulations and transitions that in some cases I think could have been better because a lot of them are using either like the relative minor or the fifth modulation or their or modal transitions. And so that's kind of what you're hearing there is you're transitioning from this big conceptual idea, the story, valiant, big orchestra, into something that's simple, something that's like, somebody walking through a forest, and this theme is for that character, or this is for something that's a little more not as grand. So yeah, and then it's introduced with our oboe player who did such a lovely job, and we get some hits in the uh, um, uh, uh, and I'm sorry, in the yeah orchestra. And yeah, excellent job by our orchestrator and such a dynamic layer in the texture. Yeah. So before we get into that next gritty section, so yeah, again, going through the motions of doing the transfer into another section, which is a more warlike section. Um, yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward for the most part. Yeah, I don't think there's too much I need to add to this section. I think this transition could have been a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit more modal work here, or just rhythmic things. But yeah, pretty standard transitions, modal transitions. Yeah, so this part was, I believe, our 5/8 section. See, one of the things I think that I'm if as a composer kind of have a tendency to do is to especially in like 5/8, 5/4 sections, as opposed to doing like the syncopated rhythms that could make those sections more interesting. You'll hear this later. I kind of stick to the like the core beat patterns and try to, like, maybe do some accents on that. I think a lot of this could have been better. Obviously, this is more like a war, like, scenario, battle. Yeah, the hawing of choir and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, it worked. I just think it could have been better. I think the players enjoyed playing it. So that homophonic section, just to kind of give you an example of homophonic example. So that what is it? The Messiah's I know who wrote it. Is it Handel's Messiah? I'm pretty sure it's Handel's Messiah. So like the whole hallelujah, hallelujah, yeah, that whole homophonic thing is essentially what you're hearing here with the orchestra. It's just homophonic rhythm, homorhythmic and homophonic. So they're all pretty much playing quote unquote the same thing, but it's still among harmony amongst um the um the orchestra. But I think that kind of, because I knew I wanted to slow down. I just should have did more to kind of pace it better, because it's kind of jarring. And I think we punched in here again. So, it created some pacing issues that I wasn't happy with. But again, a lot of this is just to kind of get through the music that could be personified by a film, and kind of cramming it all together. And then, of course, moving into this more carrying theme, I actually really proud with this part. There's nothing more, um, I think, emotionally enriching than hearing the orchestra, particularly the strings, um, whether it's playing lightly or playing together in a big expression of the main theme or any type of gesture you have, it creates this level of humanity, I would say, in the score. Because obviously you got the big brass and you got the the big things like that, but this brings it back to home because it's there it's all these imperfect what do you call imperfect well, I mean, obviously the goal is to have the ideal tuning, but I mean, let's be real. That all of them are not playing the exact same tuning. The idea is to get the tuning as close, but because they're not playing the exact same tuning, it creates this level of ethereal sounding. It's the same with choir, right? I mean, so it creates this level of cloud-like atmosphere that allows you to be in be emotionally driven by the sound. And so you'll hear that, and then when they express that with a melody, it even gets even more enriching. So here's another prime example. Then this is just specifically for violins because you can kind of see it here. She's doing what she's doing is she's listening to herself and coming out of the F hole, and and of course in relation to what people are playing around her, and on top of listening to a click, and so that's what allows the orchestra to sound the way it does. Is that it's that she doesn't it's the lack of perfection that allows it to sound human. And I mean, I think that's such, I mean, you might be getting philosophical here. I mean, but I mean that ties back to honestly what it means to be human. And I think that's why this sounds so human is because the orchestra is not perfect. You're not hearing a perfect rendition of the music. It's because if it was perfect, it would sound completely different. But because she is playing the way she's playing it, and getting as close as she can to the tone, and you have 60 people doing that, it sounds so amazing, and it's really awesome experience. So continue. Again, another transition. That was actually a modal transition, and you've heard it in films everywhere. But yeah, going back into the ostinato and doing a recap of everything that you've heard, and essentially, ideally, this is supposed to be moving. This is supposed to be we're moving into a new section of the story, and yeah, I mean that's the whole purpose of the music is to follow the action and to move with the story and change with the story. So the idea is that the melodies and themes you've heard are changing and getting evolving as they're being played. Yeah, I mean that's the piece, right? So again, I'm gonna go over some of the people that assisted me with the creation of this score. So Valiant, of course, I wrote the music, and then Joe Jackson, can't thank him enough for the orchestration work he did on it. Again, you should definitely go check out his music in the concert world. And yeah, maybe we're trying to gonna start our interview series back up at some point. But yeah, we should bring him on for the live stream sometime soon. And then of course Sam Lippman, and he's both one of our film scoring professors at University of Texas at Austin. And then Davey Heister, who is now in conducting, which is awesome to hear at Yale University. And yeah, it's doing great things. Also is a great orchestrator as well. Donald Grantham, if you were in the concert world, then you probably know who he is. You probably paid one of his pieces, particularly if you're in Texas. You know him probably really well. But yeah, works with a concert band. And then Max Franco was one of our mixing, helped out with mixing on this project. Does a lot of sound design and is a really good composer as well. So it's been an awesome experience and doing this, particularly with Budapest scoring stage, with them being a professional orchestra. It's allowed for so many lessons to be learned, but also to just make great music with a great ensemble. And that's the whole idea, right? Is just to learn and get better. And there are a lot of mistakes made at this piece, and there are a lot of great things that work too. And so that's for the most part all I have to say about this piece. Again, I can we'll be tagging the score as a part of the description for this live post, so if you want to check out the score, you definitely can. I plan to do more live streams. Of course, now we're working in film, so do more talks about the story that we're working on called The Hive, and where that story is going and how we're approaching it musically. Maybe at some point we can get our composer on, Christian Graham, astounding composer, and get to learn a little bit more about Christian and his style of writing music, as well as our production team as well. Been learning a lot as a producer and getting better every day. So the goal is to create something exceptional, something big, something grand, that's big enough for an orchestra like this. And yeah, we have high expectations, and we're on our way to getting there. So if there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments section. Again, a lot of you are probably new to the channel, don't know me, don't know where I'm from. Again, my name is Kambre. I'm from originally from Texas, and graduated from University of Texas at Austin with a bachelor's of art in music composition. I've also undertaken courses at Columbia College Chicago for film scoring, one of the best film scorings, or actually the best film scoring 3 years in the row school, under the leadership of Kublai Uner. And so I'm very thankful for all the things that I learned there, and how many, it's helped me to grow as a musician and an artist. And it's funny because a lot of this stuff is actually transfers over into the writing a script, and a lot of it, while I don't have a formal uh training specifically with writing a script, it's funny how similar it is to um writing for a orchestra, right? I mean, it's all about the story at the end of the day. It's all about intention, all about making sure what you're envisioning is what's happening. And I think that's one of the things, as especially as a younger artist, I didn't pay enough attention to, was this, is this coming out how I envisioned it to be? And whatever that vision is, whether, however it's perceived by people, because, that's, You can't control how people will perceive your art. My goal is did it do what I intended it to do? And if it did, then I think it, for the most part, is successful on my part. And yeah, just working on to accomplish that every day. So, yeah, in the film world, we got a lot of things coming, a lot of things that I can't really talk about right now. But we're working on our first trailer, so that'll be coming out ideally by the first half of the year. That should definitely be out. We also have a film festival coming up that is now open for any filmmakers who are working or who have films that have been completed. We have a film festival with cash prizes and other things that we're looking into doing. And you'll also be the first people to actually see our first trailer from the Hive. You can follow the story on IMDb under the Hive dash 2025. Of course, we're on Instagram as well, Diamond Night Studios. Trying to think what else. I'm gonna try to do more live streams, get more people on, more people who have also experience in the industry, in both film and music, because it's I think it's important for us to have these conversations too, and to share our experience with our art, and analyze and review everything. But yeah, other than that, that's all I got for today. If you have questions about this particular score, feel free to drop them in the chat. And otherwise, I'm going to sign off, and let me stop sharing. And yeah, we'll hope to start building a community here. And yeah, we'll all be talking soon. And have a good one.